this just isn't an efficient or effective way to set up these tools. One of my next videos is going to be me building this workbench, plumbing in all the dust collection, all of that stuff. So that's one video that's coming up. Hey guys, so it's finally time for me to do a shop tour. I've been making videos for about 4 months, and pretty much every video I've posted, there's been a comment or question about my shop. So I figured this is probably overdue and time for a formal shop tour. In addition to this being a shop tour video, it's also going to be a segue into my next few videos, which will be the final 2 changes that I'm doing in this shop from a construction standpoint. Basically, it's reconfiguring my current workbench, my big workbench, and I'm also going to build a new workbench over there, right behind you. What an idiot. So I'll start with a basic tour, and as I go, I will show you the changes that I'm going to be making in the near future and what's not working and why I'm going to change those. So having spent 25 plus years working out of a 2-car garage, I became an expert in organizing and setting up small workshops. And the trick that I learned early on is you need to focus on utilizing every cubic foot that you have as opposed to just focusing on the square footage. And I became really good at that. I had a lot of tools and storage in a 500 square foot workshop. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. The majority are probably working out of a 2-car garage, some even a 1-car, which I have tremendous respect for you guys. But I've never set up or worked out of a big shop. And this shop is 1,500 square feet. So it's literally 3 times bigger than what I had in my 2-car garage. In fact, it's more than that because I've got 14-foot ceiling. And I really wasn't prepared for that, to be honest with you. I'd never really put a lot of thought into setting up a big shop before. And over these last 3 years, I've learned a lot in what not to do in setting up a big shop. My goal is I want to have all of my storage in one area. I want all of my tools, like my benchtop tools, in another area, and then a workspace kind of in between the two. And I've got the back area of the shop is dedicated to wood storage and storage of things that I can't get rid of but don't use on a regular basis. And that's mostly up in the mezzanines, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll show you guys that when I get to it. So let's just get started. And again, if you have any questions, just put them in the comments and I will get back to you right away. This area is my day-to-day storage. So these are things that I access and utilize on a regular basis. Got my paint supplies over there, my sandpaper, nuts, bolts, washers, screws, and my small parts storage is here as well. Fridge is very important. So this big workbench here, I'm getting rid of it. And the reason for that is I'm not using it as a workbench. I really only use the drawers in here. So I've got 4, and they're nice big deep drawers. However, I've got 4 drawers that are taking up a full 8 feet of prime real estate. And under here, it's full of miscellaneous tool parts and old tools and things like that. So I'll probably end up moving everything in here out to my shed, since this is one of the things I rarely use, but it's the kind of things I don't want to throw it out because I might one day need it. You guys, you know how that goes, right? I can't be the only one. So I'm going to get rid of this workbench completely. And the 3 or 4 cabinets, storage cabinets that I've got scattered throughout the shop, I'm going to put them right here. So that dedicates this whole wall to storage. So this is my main work area in here. I used to have a big assembly table sitting right here. I've moved that behind me just to open up this space a little bit more. And this metal cabinet, it's got all the hand tools that I use on a regular basis, like everything from tape measures to drill bits to pliers and wrenches and all those things that we use on a regular basis. I used to have it over in front of this workbench right here, but I wanted it more accessible and easier for me to access when I'm working in this area here. The last renovation that I did is when I built this little steel top table right here, which is an extension to my table saw. Before I did that, I just had a little work area that would extend my table saw a bit. But at that time, I was utilizing this workbench for the majority of the things that I was doing. So I spent most of my time focused on this area here, whether it was assembling or planning or whatever. But since I've built this work area, I find that I never utilize that side of the workbench at all. So it's now wasting valuable real estate. So this is one of the things I'm going to change. And the downfall with this L setup, and the way I've got it, is I don't have much of an outfeed table. I've only got probably 14 inches. And this is my big cabinet table saw that I use the majority of the time. So I want to extend my outfeed table. So my plan is to get rid of this completely. Basically from here over is going to be gone. And I'm just going to extend my outfeed, probably make it 3 feet, and to this width right here. So that's one of the changes that I'm going to be doing over the next week or so. So this is my barbecue caddy. Actually, it's my Blackstone caddy that I've been using for a couple of years. Unfortunately, last time I used it, I got it a little close and had a bit of an issue. So one of the projects that's coming up in the very near future, I'm going to build a new barbecue / Blackstone caddy to replace my old melted plastic one. I'll probably do it out of pallet wood. Haven't decided yet, but this is one of the projects that's going to be coming up fairly soon. Actually, it's probably next after I get my shop renovation stuff done. That's a bit of a sneak peek for you guys there. So this area here, I keep dedicated for any big project assembly I do right here, or a lot of my tools are on wheels. So I sometimes wheel my bandsaw over here or my thickness planer. So I just wanted to keep this kind of as open space. And this little bench here is on wheels, so it's real easy to move. So this is my big drill press. That's going to be moving as well. And I'll probably move it over to this wall, but we'll get there in a minute. For now, I'm going to keep my radial arm saw here. I don't think I'll have it much longer. My plan is to upgrade to a bigger sliding miter saw that basically does the same thing but takes up less space. But for now, keeping it here. Now this room here is what I call my lathe room. The only reason that I built this was when I work on the lathe, and those of you that have a lathe, you'll appreciate this, they make a hell of a mess and chips go flying everywhere. So I just built this little room as a way to contain all of the chips for when I'm using my lathe. And it works really well for that, so probably won't change any of this other than setting up my dust collector, which I've got sitting on the roof there. I just need to plumb it down so I can actually utilize it when I'm working on my lathe as well. This is one of the storage cabinets that's going to go on that wall, which is now behind you guys. So that cabinet's going to move, as are these two cabinets right here. They're going to be moved over to my storage wall. So right now I've got my shaper and 2 benchtop sanders sitting on this workbench. The thing that I don't like about having them set up here is it's difficult for me to plumb in permanent dust collection. And these are the 3 things that probably make more dust than anything in my whole shop. So when I use these, I need to physically hook up my dust port, which is just kind of a pain in the ass. But with it backing onto this benchtop here, this benchtop just gets covered in dust, and this was one of my main work areas. So this just isn't an efficient or effective way to set up these tools. So again, this whole bench is going to be gone, which is going to open up my front space here even more. I may end up putting my drill press, my big drill press right here. I haven't decided yet, but that's one of the contenders. So this area is one of the areas that's going to change completely. My plan is to build a workbench that's along that whole wall and then is in an L shape backing onto my lathe room there. So any small benchtop tool is going to be in this area right here. One of my next videos is going to be me building this workbench, plumbing in all the dust collection, all of that stuff. So that's one video that's coming up. And then my next video is going to be me disassembling this part of the workbench and adding on an outfeed section to my table saw. So this is all going to be gone and removed. Those tools are going to be along that wall. So again, it's going to open up this area. I'll probably end up putting my bandsaw and big drill press here. So then what that does is that gets all of my big power tools in one small area. So again, it's more efficient and effective to jump from one to the other, also easier to film on camera. This is still going to be my main work area right here on this big steel top bench. So this is my assembly table. It used to be over there, but I reconfigured some stuff on this side and basically moved that table saw that way about 6 or 7 feet, which opened up this area so I could fit my assembly table right here. I've got my plywood storage up along that side. That's not going to change. My plan is to refurbish that old table saw one day. Until then, it just kind of takes up space, unfortunately, but I can't get rid of it. So hang on to it for now. So this corner back here, I think this is probably where I'm going to keep my R3. I may move the R3 up here depending on how much room I've got, but I'm also fine with keeping it here. I can actually utilize it here in place if I'm working on something small. If I've got a bigger piece, I can just wheel it out. It's not hard to do at all. So I'll probably end up keeping this here. This shelf in the back there, that's all of my basically 2 foot to 4 foot lengths of hardwood is in those shelves in the back. And that mezzanine up top is where I store all of the supplies that I rarely use. A lot of it is like extra paint brushes and rollers and paint that I don't use that often and sandpaper, like just the bulk stuff that I don't use a lot, but it's still fairly easily accessible. So as I said, I find that the majority of the time that I spend is either right here on this side of this bench or on that side over there. The main tool that I use is the table saw. So I think just by default, I feel comfortable in this area. But this is a great space to work on and right by my table saw. So this feels like home to me. And now the assembly table here, it just gives me an added workspace that's within arm's reach. So I think it just enhances this space or this area that I spend a lot of time in. So everything in this back wall, this back area, is all dedicated to wood storage. This table saw is my miter table saw. So I keep this at 45 degrees all the time. I only ever cut miters on it. So I don't use it a lot. But one of the changes that I made a few days ago, and I don't know why I didn't do it sooner, but this table saw was moved that way about 6 or 7 feet. So it opened up the space back here. However, I don't ever utilize this space unless I'm accessing wood from one of these 3 walls. So all I really need is just a lane for me to walk through and access it. I don't need a lot of space, so it made perfect sense to move this back this way quite a bit to make this space smaller, but increase the space for the area that I actually work in. Back here is all hardwood storage, and I've got it sorted based on types and sizes. Like as an example, in that steel cabinet there is all of my expensive woods, like my Paduke and mahogany and walnut, Purple Heart, things like that. Then in this cart beside it is all maple, smaller maple pieces. And up here is, again, sorted by type and by size. This side is for fairly big pieces, whereas this area here is for really small, skinny pieces, skinny and long, or pieces that are this size. And it's sorted by type. This is all walnut. This is hickory. I've got purple heart, some tiger wood in there, oak, maple, and most of that up top is maple as well. This bench right here, I'm probably going to get rid of it. It's basically my metalworking station, which I rarely, if ever, use. And it's got my grinder, my grinding discs, my welding supplies. I rarely use any of those, so it's not taking up valuable space. The storage that's behind here are things that I rarely access. It's basically old wood table legs, bigger scraps of wood. So if I need to get at it, I can wheel this out. Again, I don't really utilize it, so it's just taking up space. Under this bench is all of my dimensional lumber that's 3 feet and less in length. So it's all spruce, pine, fir, cedar, even some treated stuff in there, but it's all dimensional lumber. So that's all my plywood storage. And this is where all of the smaller pieces of scrap hardwood, it's where they live. This bench top here, I've kind of got dedicated to keep my jigs, crosscut sleds, and any project that I'm in the middle of that I still need to finish. Because I do sometimes go from project to project. And these are just more small hardwood pieces. Most of this cart, if not all of it, is maple. And this one's mostly walnut, padauk, things like that. And then I've got my plywood storage over here. So this cart here, I used to have my bigger hardwood pieces stored in here, but it wasn't very effective, so I've transferred it to shelves. This cart, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I may get rid of it, or I may turn it into a big tool cabinet, or who knows. But it's a really heavy duty cart. It's got great casters, very well built. So I hate getting rid of it. I really don't need it either. And up there is the things that I rarely access, like all of my steel and short lengths of PVC pipe are up there. I've got a bunch of drawer slides, steel table legs, wheels, my casters are in that box there. My electrical supplies, like my wire and fittings, things like that, are in those bins. And then up there in what I call no man's land, a bunch of stuff and parts that I just can't get rid of because I'm a pack rat, or I have a vision for it one day. So. Might as well show you my Jeep collection too, since we're here. So I've been a Jeep junkie for my entire adult life, which is why I collect these toys. I've probably owned over 20 Jeeps over the years, so a lot of older ones. Everything from a 1948 Willys to a brand new TJ, so I've got a thing for Jeeps. So I'll show you the inside of my lathe room, just so you can see. So I don't have much in here. I don't have much room, but as you can see, it works really good for containing sawdust and wood chips. If I didn't have this room, that would all be in my shop, scattered all over my shop. So I've got all of my chisels up there, so they're easily accessible. Got some sandpaper hanging on the magnet clips. And then in here, I've just got all the parts and tools for my lathe. No idea what's in here. Sandpaper. And I've just got some pieces of wood that are going through the drying and seasoning process. I've got my grinder set up here to sharpen my chisels, so everything that I need is within reach. So I'm really glad I added this room on. It makes a big difference and keeps my shop a lot cleaner than it used to be.